What's up, guys? Happy Thursday, and welcome to your WWE Backlash 2023 predictions. The pay-per-view is this Saturday, and we are here to predict the entire card, also run through a few wrestling news tidbits, a few things I need to talk about, and touch on last night's AEW Dynamite. So hopefully you guys are having a great day. Thank you for joining me this afternoon or evening. This should be about an hour and a half long podcast, not terribly long, but we're going to go over a few things like the all-in ticket sales. We're going to talk about Dark and Elevation being no more, the Saturday show upcoming, Britt Baker's t-shirt, Sonya Deville's Stalker being sentenced to prison, last night's Dynamite, and finally we'll predict Backlash at the end of the show. And there's a couple of matches that I feel on Backlash are extremely predictable and some that aren't. As a matter of fact, I just posted a question on Twitter about an hour ago, less than that even, trying to figure out Backlash and how that factors into WWE's plans for Night of Champions, because that, of course, is a Saudi Arabia show. Still not totally sure how that card is going to be structured, if it's going to be all championship matches, because if it is, they got to figure out the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens situation, or if a large portion of the pay-per-view is going to be used for maybe the final couple of rounds of the tournament, or if they're just going to have the finals for the World Heavyweight title at Night of Champions. Don't really know yet. But one thing's for sure, Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar will probably both be having matches on Night of Champions, right? Why would Brock make the Puerto Rico show but not get the Saudi payday, you know? So Brock is probably not going to be missing that Saudi money, I would assume. So if he's going to be there and Cody's going to be there, what do they do at Night of Champions? We've all had the idea of having Cody Rhodes face Seth Rollins in the finals of the World Heavyweight Championship tournament, but where does that leave Brock? Is there time to make another opponent for him in 3 weeks to put him up against him at Night of Champions? And what if it's not a title match? It could be Bobby Lashley to blow off their situation. We really don't know. So some of those situations are making me wonder how they're going to book some of the finishes to this. And since Cody and Brock, as of right now, is just a standard match, I'm wondering if we get a DQ or some interference or anything that might factor in to their finish that could put those two back in line to face each other down the road. You know, maybe it's Cody and Brock for the title at SummerSlam, if Cody wins the title between now and then, and Brock's a free agent, and they could have their rematch if Cody beats him here with some help from Mr. Lashley or something like that. Brock has a reason to come back and get a rematch later, and maybe when he gets that rematch, Cody is the champion. There's a lot of things to think about and a lot of different paths they could take. But I am curious about Night of Champions. I find myself thinking about Night of Champions more than I do Backlash, because how they book these matches at Backlash is going to factor in to the Night of Champions card. And with Bad Bunny and Damian Priest being on this card, if WWE wanted to put Brock and Cody on the undercard, they could do it here and put Bad Bunny and Priest in the main event, and Cody and Brock being on the undercard would lend evidence to them actually doing some sort of a DQ or schmaz or interference type of finish to where maybe it wouldn't be suitable to put in the main event. So all that stuff I've been kind of thinking about over the last couple of days, and we'll put our predictions together here in just a little bit, but wanted to get some feedback from you guys as well. So that's going to be the plan here for this afternoon. I have no idea what kind of an audience we're going to have. I never stream on Thursday afternoons, so a lot of you guys probably aren't noticing that I'm even up here, but hopefully some of you tune in and catch this video at least on demand later and catch my predictions for this Saturday. Now, this Saturday, it's going to be a busy weekend. No links are up yet, but I do have a watch-along planned for Sunday, and I plan on doing a Backlash review on Saturday. But both of these streams, there's like a 10% chance they might be in jeopardy. So I'm just waiting one more day to figure out what exactly my weekend schedule is going to be, because it's going to be busy with both jobs, with YouTube and my other job the whole weekend. So I'm just trying to balance it all out. So before I put any links up, I just want to make absolutely sure that everything is a go for this weekend, because it's kind of nuts at work. And then next weekend, we've got Mother's Day, which might cause a problem for our watch-along, so I certainly don't want to miss 2 watch-alongs in a row. Just stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe, like button, notifications bell, all that good stuff. Follow me over on the socials, and make sure you like this video, please. And if you would like to support, memberships are open. You can become a member as well. And I want to thank everybody for being here. Let me cruise to the chat and say hi to those of you who are hanging out here now, and then we will get into our wrestling news. Good to see the OG JJ Leg. He's at work, but we'll watch the replay when he gets home. Sounds like a plan to me, JJ. Thanks for being here. Good to see Destiny, Alex Dredge, channel members, Chad Medeiros, and MH Nova and Michael Kumo in the house early. Michael, appreciate the $5. I realized that it's no longer called WrestleMania Backlash, just Backlash. Yeah, they've been doing that. I think we knew that this year. Did they call it WrestleMania Backlash last year? They might have. But yeah, this year it's just back to being Backlash. And I've noticed that for a while. I'm glad you finally picked up on that, Michael. Good to see Juliet, Kevin in the house, Jose, Jet the Hawk, Smitty. We got Ronnie, Big MGM, Hassan, Terrell, JL, Mark Simpson, Destiny, Alex, all you guys, good to see you. Hope you are having a great one. Yes, Smitty, the pay-per-view is on Saturday, right? Saturday, May 6th. That's correct. So that'll be Saturday, and then Sunday we should be good to go for the watch-along. I'm leaning towards Judgment Day 2003, but I'm just not sure yet what I'm even going to be doing, and I'm still trying to schedule the members-only watch-along with Elizabeth that I wanted to do the Sunday after next, or a week from this Sunday, but then I realized that's Mother's Day and I'm going to be balls to the wall at the restaurant. So she will be getting in here soon for a members only watch along. We've got the show picked out. We just got to find a time to stream it. And we like to do it on Sundays. It seems to be the best day for all of you guys. We will get that done in May, that I promise you. So just keep a lookout and stay tuned to the channel for all of that future information. But let's get into some wrestling news first. And we got to start off with some really uplifting and positive news coming out of All Elite Wrestling. The All In, AEW All In London, pre-sale tickets went up yesterday, I believe, and they had over 40,000 people sign up and purchase tickets in the pre-sale. I think it finished with somewhere around 42 or 43,000 yesterday. And as of today, per a tweet from Tony Khan, they are now up to 50,000 for about a $6.5 million gate so far. That's incredible. Not overly surprising. We knew the fans in the UK were going to turn out for this. Of course, there's, a ton of debating from the tribals about the ticket sales, but you have to be an idiot to think that they're not going to pull a decent house here. And these are pretty much the best numbers they could have hoped for. I've never really believed they're going to pack 90,000 into this thing because that's a little bit insane. It's hard for WWE to pull crowds like that, but you knew they were going to be pulling in a massive amount of seats here, and this is a really early indication of what the crowd is going to look like. And if they're selling 50,000 just in the pre-sale alone, you got to assume you're looking at another 10 or 20,000 on top of that. And I think there's a very, very good likelihood that they're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70,000 people for this Wembley show at All In. And that's a pretty damn good number. I mean, you have to be one jaded, miserable piece of shit to find bad news in that. But nevertheless, that's what you see on Twitter from the people who are so desperate to do anything to tear down the company they hate. They will find bad news in anything and do whatever they can to move the goalposts just to try to make themselves hate the company. And it's so weird. But anyway, the 50,000 tickets sold already in the pre-sale is pretty damn good. Tomorrow they go on sale for real. So we'll get a pretty good indicator of what kind of house they're going to do. And then you're going to have, it was all scalpers. I'm like, it's all scalpers for every show. Every fucking show, scalpers buy tickets. It's still going to be full. Then they just sell them twice. It's not the burn you think it is. Tony Khan's buying up all the tickets. Well, that's just desperation. That's just desperation in your voice, determined and desperate to find anything to shit on. And that is the sign of a miserable fucking human being. So just keep a lookout for those people. They're everywhere. They're cockroaches. And I was laughing my ass off yesterday watching these people twist themselves into a pretzel to turn this news into bad news. I just wonder why these people weren't hugged. I don't understand what kind of lives they live. All I know is this is good news for AEW. I'm really excited to see how that card shapes up, because another cool thing about this number is they sold all of these without one single match being announced. And I know, wrestling is different now. WWE made a conscious effort over the past 25 years to make sure that their company no longer rides on the shoulders of one person. They have gotten to the point now where they could lose Cena or Roman Reigns or any of their top stars. And while it might sting them a little bit, it's not going to take down the company. Where Hogan was the backbone in the 80s. Austin in the Attitude Era was the backbone. Luckily, he had some help. Rock, DX, Foley, guys like that. But without Austin, without Hogan, you can make an argument that the company would not have survived. And I think Vince never wanted to put himself in that position again, to where now people buy tickets to WrestleMania because you're going to WrestleMania. Doesn't matter what the matches are. You're going to this big, huge spectacle. It's going to be great. AEW is kind of getting like that too, because as a ticket buyer to AEW, I'm not going to make Double or Nothing, it doesn't look like, but I will be at Dynamite in San Diego here at the end of the month. And every other ticket I've bought to AEW, went to Double or Nothing last year, and I've been to a couple of Dynamites. I've not really known the cards for those either. The reason I'm buying a ticket is because I watch AEW's product. I like what they present, and I would love to go to a show. And so I don't even know, like, a lot of people are saying, oh, AEW sold these tickets without a single match announced. But to be fair, a lot of people, a lot of fans anyway, don't really buy tickets just to go see one specific match. You're buying tickets to a wrestling show now, not just to see one match, one guy, one set of tits, whatever, like you would have in the Attitude Era. Got to see Sable in her bikini, or got to see Austin drink a beer. Now it's about just going to the show, experiencing it all. And I think both companies have done a pretty good job of achieving that, of knowing that they can sell tickets to their audience without booking any matches or announcing any matches, especially when many tickets go on sale so far ahead of time. Another interesting note here about this number from AEW, this surpasses the highest paid amount of tickets that WCW ever brought in under Eric Bischoff, which I think was that Georgia Dome show of about 40,000 when Goldberg won the title. And they packed that building in only 4 days, and they didn't really announce Goldberg and Hogan up until that previous week. But they still sold 40,000 tickets. It wasn't a sellout, nowhere close, but that was a lot of tickets paid. Now, the big Collision in Korea show with 100,000 people there, that was a New Japan show, and plus those citizens were forced by the government to attend. We're talking about paid attendance here. When it comes to non-Vince shows, non-WWE shows, here in America anyway, it's Tony Khan, number 2, no longer Eric Bischoff. So that's a pretty big accomplishment for AEW and even for Tony Khan, who accomplished this number about 2 years earlier than Eric Bischoff did. I think Eric Bischoff was the head of WCW for about 6 years, 5-6 years by the time they got to that 1998 Georgia Dome show. Tony Khan did a lot quicker than that. So that's all positive news, and I'm happy for the talent that there's wrestlers out there that get to compete on a wrestling show that's not Vince and not Wrestle Kingdom, that still, can draw in this amount of interest, this amount of fans. And this is really, really positive news for pro wrestling in general. That you got 3 big promotions capable now, in the world of really drawing major houses, and 2 of them right here in North America is pretty incredible. And I'm thrilled and stoked for the talent. And who knows how many tickets they're going to wind up selling near the end, because seats are going to constantly being opened up. This thing is not going to sell out. So tickets will be available all the way up until the show. And then if they stack a big card on top of this, and you factor in a big CM Punk and Kenny Omega match, or a CM Punk and FTR versus Elite, or any sort of major match like that, that will basically be tied into last year's Brawl Out. And if that's the first time any of these components come together in a match, Punk, Elite, Jericho, Hangman, anything like that, if there's any sort of match involved at All In with those people against each other, that's just going to add a bunch more tickets at the end. I have been pitching now for, I guess, I don't know when the first time I brought it up. I'd say maybe 2 months ago now, maybe 1 month ago. I have been pitching Jade Cargill to have a major match on All In. And I think a perfect opponent for her would be the current AEW Women's Champion, Jamie Hayter. You book Hayter and Cargill title for title at Wembley. That could be another big attraction match that I'd be really interested in seeing. You could bring in Mercedes Moné, perhaps. There's a lot of things you could do with some of the women, and I've been eyeballing that Jade Cargill streak, because at some point you got to pull the trigger on that. And I know sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise whenever you have something great like this. You have to be careful. WWE is going through the same thing with Roman Reigns right now. When he loses, make sure it's a big deal. And that's why I'm so nervous that they really dropped the ball at WrestleMania, because I don't know how you could have written a better end to Roman's run like that, with Cody, overcoming those odds. Sure, you can still make that happen, but will it be as good as the opportunity you might have missed out on there? And that's something that's got to be very difficult for promoters and bookers and heads of creative to figure out as well. You got to make sure you do the Jade Cargill shit right. Just don't have her lose to anybody. Don't do the cattle prod thing like they did in WCW with Goldberg. Make sure that you try to make her loss as memorable and as big a deal as possible, to where you can look back on this from years to come. That's the goal I would have if I'm sitting in Tony Khan's shoes. So All In could be a good spot for that. But then again, main event of a Dynamite could be a good spot for that too. It doesn't have to be on a show like this that's going to have a lot of other big matches in it. You don't want to risk Jade Cargill's being lost in the shuffle of all the other big shit going on. So there's a lot of things to think about when it comes to that. But now that you know for a fact that you're going to have a WrestleMania-sized crowd here in Wembley Stadium for this, if you're Tony Khan, you're going to give these people the very best card possible. And there's still a lot of talk of where this is going to air, because the following week is All Out, and that apparently is still a go. And there have been a few rumors that maybe All Out could be pay-per-view and All In could be streaming on the new Max, the HBO Max that's going to turn into Max now. That would be great if they did something like that, but they got a few months to figure that out. Right now, it looks like they are set for a huge show, and who knows what else they could do, who else they could bring in. Maybe Tony Khan feels now obligated to make sure that they've got an extra attraction in there somewhere. Maybe he phones in a Goldberg to face Wardlow or something like that. I don't know. All I know is this is pretty promising just for pro wrestling in general, and you like to see it. It's awesome when you can have two companies capable of putting $50K plus into an arena. That's awesome. There are no losers in that. Why fans allow themselves to get all uppity and pissed about another company's success blows my mind. This is all good for us. We as wrestling fans have multiple options of shit to watch. You don't like AEW, don't watch them. But to expend all of your energy shitting on them or passively aggressively shitting on them or doing everything you can to downplay the accomplishments of them, why are you so miserable? That's the question I pose to these people. So that is nothing but good news in the wrestling world. Congrats to everybody in AEW for that accomplishment. And I can't wait to see what the final house is. And just out of curiosity, I wanted to see what the ticket prices were. No, I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't look it up. Maybe I saw it on social media. Must have saw it on Twitter. And looking at the seating chart for All In Wembley, it's not set up the way SummerSlam was. It's going to be set up kind of like a WCW New Japan show with the hard cam facing the ramp. So I think the hard cam is going to face, basically like it would at MSG, although way longer. And you're going to have this very, very long ramp that's probably going to come right up to the ring, just like the New Japan shows and just like some of the international WCW shows did. And it's going to come probably right up to the ring, and you're going to have all the fans around it. So the entranceway won't be off to the side. You'll have a full arena surrounding the ring, and that's going to look pretty cool. I really like the way they have the stage and the ramp and the ring set up for the seating chart there, and that's going to look really awesome. So once they get a better idea of how many tickets they're going to sell, then they can, if they're not going to have the whole 90,000 sold, obviously, they can block off some stuff or whatever they want to do. Either way, it should be a pretty awesome visual to see this amount of people packed into Wembley in late August. Can't wait to see it. Now, speaking of AEW, I've had a few questions about this Britt Baker shirt. And Britt Baker's shirt was seen on Dynamite last night. Chris Jericho was wearing it on commentary. Now, Baker, of course, last week or the week after, or week before, whatever that week was, where the Jericho Appreciation Society handcuffed Adam Cole and the Outcasts came in and they fucked up Britt Baker and they gave her a black eye. So Britt Baker then has a black eye, and she takes a photo of herself with the black eye, and I guess maybe her hotel room or her house or something, but the background behind her is just very dark. Just looks like she's in a dark home with the lights turned out, and she's got a black eye, and they threw it up on a t-shirt. And it caused a lot of controversy because some fans who get a little bit go overboard about things think that the shirt promotes domestic violence. Well, if you look at that shirt without context and somebody's wearing a shirt around with a woman with a black eye, what are you going to think? Well, I'm going to think there must be context to that shirt, because no idiot would run around wearing the picture of the woman he beat up or something like that. So I don't really think it promotes domestic violence, but one of the biggest problems with fans, and especially the arguing online, is they don't ever understand that more than one thing can be true. And every hill must be died on. And that's all I saw. You saw the camp that said it promotes domestic violence. You wear that shirt out, you are promoting domestic violence. I'm like, that's stupid. Nobody is promoting domestic violence. Will that shirt make someone who doesn't know the context perhaps think it means domestic violence? Maybe, but I don't think it promotes it. And I think promoting it is a little bit of a stretch. Now, I also think there are things that AEW could have done to add some context to this shirt. For example, if Brit would have been photographed cutting a promo backstage or in the ring, and the camera got a close-up of her black eye, they screenshotted that, threw it on a shirt. That's a little bit better because you got a wrestling ring and an audience behind you. Or just write Britt Baker Britt Baker DMD under it and some logo or an AEW logo or something like that, but just a flat out photograph of a woman on a shirt that you can get done and get pressed at your local t-shirt company right down the road from you. You all live near one, and can get it done for $8. It did look a little bit sketchy, and so that's why I'm saying, both things are true here. Yeah, it's a little bit of a sketchy look, but to go as far to say that AEW is promoting domestic violence is fucking crazy. And I don't understand why fans have to have so aggressive black and white opinions. Multiple things can be true. The shirt is not the end of the world. They were wearing it on TV last night. AEW, Warner Brothers Discovery, nobody seems to be too concerned about this shirt. But the fans noticed that it does look a little dark, and it does. But at the end of the day, I don't really think it's a big deal. But I understand, it's kind of a weird example, but years ago, my ex-wife, probably about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, she was at work. She worked in a restaurant too. And this whole thing is on camera. She was the only one there, and she was walking around the kitchen. It was early in the morning. She was walking around the kitchen. The floor was wet, and she slipped. And there was if you work in a restaurant, you know what glass racks are. These big, heavy-duty plastic, glass holders that hold about 24 glasses each. And if you have a lot of them, you can stack them. And there was a big stack about as tall as she was. And she went around the corner, slipped, and hit the side of her face on these glass racks and just gave herself a big black eye. She was really lucky she didn't lose any teeth or broke her nose, and bruised her cheek, black eye, just a huge, looked like she had been beaten up. And they couldn't let her work. Like, you can't work on the floor, looking like this. So she had to take like 10 days off from work, and she was home a lot. And I remember she wanted to go out to eat, like for lunch. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I didn't think anything of it. And we went out to eat. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting there at the table. I'm like, I feel sketched out that I'm sitting here with somebody that's got a black face. Are people going to think that I beat her up or something like that? And I remember having that same thought. So I can understand people looking in that shirt, and that might be where their mind takes them. But I don't think it means that when I went to lunch that day, I was promoting domestic violence, just like the t-shirt isn't promoting domestic violence. You know what I mean? It's just a picture of Britt's black eye. It plays into the storyline. That's it. So I don't really think it was worth, because that's one thing I laughed about is I came back, to Twitter 2 days later, and people are still debating this. I'm like, this should have been dropped like 10 minutes after it was discussed. It's kind of a sketchy shirt, but whatever. I don't think it's the end of the world. This is not something you should be artificially or recreationally outraged over and to make a big stink about it, when at the end of the day, who fucking cares? Really. Maybe it was an ill-advised shirt, but Jericho seems to be fine with it. He's wearing it on TV. Brit seems to be fine with it. She's the one with the black eye. And the whole shirt is kind of weird, considering that Brit is the one who endorsed it and put it up for sale. And then the Outcast members are buying it and wearing it as a way to troll her. I'm like, well, you just gave her money. So that makes a lot less sense than the shirt itself in my mind. But at the end of the day, the Britt Baker shirt definitely made me say, I might have done that differently, or I might have used a different photo, or I might have added a little bit of context to the shirt. Sure. But I'm also not going to go as far as saying, oh, that shirt promotes domestic violence, because that's just, grow the fuck up. Anyway, that's the deal. That's my opinions on the Britt Baker shirt. Speaking of creepy shit and creepy individuals, the dickbag who stalked and tried to kidnap Sonya Deville 3 years ago, right before the pandemic, right around this time, probably 3 years ago, has been sentenced to, I believe, 15 years in prison. He was looking at 40 years to life or something like that. Kind of got off easy, if you ask me, because when you found out what his intentions were and the shit in the trunk and all of that, he's going to be going to jail for a long time. I'm glad Sonya Deville has got some closure on this now, even though this is probably always going to haunt her. It really did feel like this affected her life dramatically. She took time off after that. She's since been back, but she's been very open about the situation and how it has affected her. And I think it's just sad when some delusional, perverted piece of shit like that can do the mental damage to someone that he's going to do, because he's going to be in a world of shit himself. He's going to go in prison. He's going to be in prison for the next 15 years, and I hope they stick every fucking burrito imaginable up his ass. I do. But the damage he did to Sonya mentally, I feel bad that she constantly has to live with this type of like PTSD over it, and it just sucks that she was ever put in this position at all. Even though I think if she would have gotten his hands on that kid that night, she would have stretched him and broke his arm. But it's messed up and it's sad. And I'm glad at least this kid is heading off to prison for over a decade with hopefully no chance of parole or getting out early or anything like that, because he is extremely dangerous. Anybody willing to do something like that, I feel like is willing to do anything. So hopefully while he's in prison, it will be an absolute miserable time, and maybe we'll even get lucky. He won't even live through it. So let's just fingers crossed, right? But let's talk a little bit about last night's AEW Dynamite. I'm going to talk about Dynamite in real general terms here because I was eyeballing the show. I think my favorite segment of the entire 2000s century so far, of this millennium, has to be Sonjay Dutt, Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, and Jeff Jarrett showing up at the Briscoe family chicken farm. I don't think I've marked out harder in my life, not even when Bret won the title. That was absolutely amazing. My favorite segment, I think, of my life might have taken place here on Dynamite. It was so good. But the show opened up with a big 8-man tag. This is going to be Adam Cole and, well, actually, I should say JAS, Jake Hager 2.0, and Daniel Garcia. They're taking on newly reunited, former undisputed members, Roddy, Adam Cole. They're teaming up with Cassidy and Bandito, who are also recent BFFs. They've really hit it off well since their match last week. And this is a fun little 8-man to open up the show. Boom to Angelo Parker for the win from Adam Cole. Right after the match, Cole sprints up to the announce table where Jericho is on guest commentary. He's wearing that Britt Baker shirt to troll Adam Cole. Cole dives on him. They go flying into the back. Security breaks him up. And then later on, Adam Cole is actually tossed out of the building and Britt slaps Jericho and that whole deal. So that was all a lot of fun with that opening match, and just good to see Strong and Cole back together. So awesome. Saraya defeated Willow Nightingale in a one-on-one match. After the match, the Outcasts are in there. Britt and Jamie Hayter show up. They start brawling with the Outcasts. They get beaten down. Sheeta comes out and kind of swerves the Outcasts, makes it look like she's going to join up with them, only to turn on them and join with Baker and Hayter instead. So we're probably going to get some sort of 6-woman or a combination of matches perhaps with these women at Double or Nothing. It might just be 3-on-3, but they could break them off here and do Saraya and Britt in a tag match or something like that. But looks like they're headed for a Double or Nothing showdown, and it's really awesome to see Hikaru Shida back and joining the, I guess they're trying to consider her a homegrown talent, even though she really isn't. They definitely made mention of that last night. But she's back. She swerved the Outcast. She's going to be babyface, teaming up with Baker and Hayter, and I love that. The Acclaimed and Daddy Ass won the big Trios Battle Royal, so they implied that the winner of this Battle Royal would be in line for a shot against the House of Black's Trios title, and the House of Black also had a little vignette where they kind of threw the Trios title down, and they basically just challenged anybody to like name the match and the stip, or I didn't really pay much attention to what they were saying, to be honest with you, but it feels like they were, laying down the gauntlet. Then with the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn winning that Battle Royal, makes you think that since AEW, a lot of fans feel like took the titles off the Acclaimed way, way, way too early. If you belt up the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass as your Trios champions, that could be fun. And I agree. I love the House of Black. I still, even as champions, I don't feel like they're properly used. I think Malachi and his crew should be right at the very top of the world title scene, being a major, major contender for that. And the fact that they're Trios champions has been good. They've had a couple of good matches and stuff, but hell, the Acclaimed and Billy still very over. The Scissor Me, the Daddy Ass, all that stuff, still crazy over, still mileage left. Maybe putting the title on the three of them, making Billy Gunn a champion again in wrestling, winning a Trios title this time, could be fun. And I actually would be in favor of it, because that could make for some really entertaining TV with the all three guys coming out with their belts. And who knows, maybe even Billy can win these belts with his son, or sons, I should say, down the road as well. But it sounds like they might actually put the belts on the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass, and you know what? I'd be fine with that. Ricky Starks defeated Juice Robinson one-on-one and also fended off an attack from Jay White. So we're probably going to get Starks against White at Double or Nothing. This whole issue has been not that interesting to me, but like when you look at the match on paper, Starks and Jay White should be phenomenal at Double or Nothing. I'm all about that match. I hope they steal the damn show. But overall, I'm not a huge Juice fan. So everything they've been doing on TV, I've been paying, half-ass attention to it. And then I definitely got to talk about my favorite segment of the entire night. Oh, before I do that, let's backtrack just a little bit and mention the Wardlow squash. I forgot about the Wardlow squash. He squashed a schmuck and then got on the mic and issued an open challenge for the TNT title. Now, we already saw Christian Cage come out when Wardlow won the title and imply that he was going to be the challenger. And I thought that was weird why they did it right after the Hobbs match instead of waiting a week. Well, now Wardlow issues this open challenge and Christian then comes out with Luchasaurus. And Wardlow's, send your big ass monster down here right now. I'll take him out. And Christian acts like he's dropping some sort of a bombshell here. And he's like, no. The open challenge isn't for him. It's for me. So that's kind of what I thought right off the bat. I thought as soon as Christian came out that he was going to be the one challenging for the TNT. Wardlow, for some reason, thinks it's going to be Luchasaurus, and then Christian lets him know that, no, it's for me. So Wardlow and Christian, unless they try to do this on TV, because I think we still have 3 weeks of TV before we get to Double or Nothing. If they do Wardlow and Christian on TV, I don't think that match is set. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I know Mox and Hangman, I'm sorry, not Mox and Hangman, Moxley and Kenny are booked for the cage match next week. So if they try to get Christian and Wardlow done on TV, you could. Otherwise, save that one for Double or Nothing. And I like Wardlow and everything, but I liked Wardlow a year ago when he was white hot and Tony Khan decided to drop the ball with him. So he's cooled off in my mind a little bit for me now, which means I'd be perfectly fine with Christian winning the TNT title. I think he'd be a great TNT champion. It would put a belt around Christian's waist. It would put a Hall of Fame caliber wrestler on your TNT title lineage and history. And, he'd be a good guy to, hold that belt for a while, regain its value a little bit, because right now it feels like Orange Cassidy's international title has kind of eclipsed the TNT a little bit in terms of importance or interest. And if Christian were to take the TNT and be a raging douchebag with it, it could really get the fans excited for him to drop that title. I think he would be really good at getting under the fans' skin. Plus, he's an older veteran, so he can trigger the, it should be somebody new. They can trigger all those people. It'd be so good. He's going to get it from both sides. I think he'd be a great heel TNT champion, and it would be awesome when he did drop that belt back, whether it be to Wardlow or some other major babyface in the company, or maybe, somebody who hasn't held a championship yet. Maybe a returning Miro. Maybe Christian, after a few title defenses, is out all cocky on Dynamite one night. There's nobody in that locker room who can outwork me. Maybe he even beats a few former TNT champions, right? And in title matches on TV. I've beaten Darby. I've beaten Hobbs. I've beaten Wardlow. There's no other former TNT champions left that can take me. And then Miro shows back up and squashes him in 5 minutes to a hero's welcome, or 5 seconds, I should say, not 5 minutes, but squashes him in a very, very quick match and puts Christian down like the Warrior put down Honky at SummerSlam 88. Do something like that. So if Christian does get the title shot, which I'm sure he will, I think he should win. I kind of want him to become TNT champion. But then again, Wardlow just won the title back as well. And if you need some sort of a good first opponent for him to get Wardlow cooking on his run, Christian could be the guy. Otherwise, you are kind of hot potatoing this belt a little bit. So even though I'm in favor of a Christian title win, I could see him losing too. And maybe Wardlow has to contend with both Christian and Luchasaurus. And that might even turn into some sort of, I worry that they'll do this because it's what WWE would do. They'll make a triple threat where Christian and Luchasaurus both get a title shot against Wardlow, but then Christian's going to try to be manipulating Luchasaurus to do what he wants. That type of angle. We're already seeing that with MJF and Sammy Guevara. So I don't know if I really want to see that, but I could see them doing it. But now I need to circle back to my favorite segment of the century so far. Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Sonjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh showing up to the Briscoe family chicken farm. And this wasn't long. It was 2 minutes maybe at the most, but it was so good. You've got Sonjay Dutt in his overalls. You got Satnam Singh in overalls, and Jeff Jarrett's got his cowboy hat, and they ring the doorbell or knock on the door, and fucking Briscoe comes out. Mark comes out, and he's got his baby in his hand. He's like, what the hell y'all doing here, man? And Jeff Jarrett goes, oh, what a pretty little girl. And he goes, boy. Just watching Briscoe go, boy, boy, is I rewound it, watched it 5 times. Oh, what a cute little girl. Boy. Oh, can we watch it? Can we watch it together, please? Oh my God, it was so good. So Sonya is basically saying that they want to make up for all the misunderstanding, the recent misunderstandings that they've had with Briscoe, and they want to help him on the farm a little bit. So come on, let's go out here and help you out on the farm. And they do this montage of them. Jeff Jarrett's on like a lawnmower, and they're digging holes, and they got chickens. Sonjay's chasing chickens around, and Mark's son is in the hands of this giant Satnam Singh who's is in overalls, and you have to wonder, like, if that movie Look Who's Talking is true and like little infants are talking to themselves, what the fuck does this kid think is going on right now? This giant man is holding him. He's got crazy people all over the place, just doing farming work and acting crazy. Plus his dad's nuts. And then later on, they're back all on the porch and they're just chilling. And Jarrett's got the guitar and he's about to sing With My Baby Tonight when Papa Briscoe shows up. And just to watch all of those guys act like little kids, act like, little teenagers or something, when Papa Briscoe comes up. Oh, hello, sir. Good to see you here, sir. Here, have my chair, sir. And then Papa Briscoe starts talking to his son about not trusting them. Man, don't trust them guys. The one in overalls. And he goes, which one? And as father and son are speaking, in the background, Sonjay and Satnam, they're dancing around. They're do-si-doing. They got the baby in the background. And it's just this big deliverance dance party, like right behind this conversation in the background. It was so funny and so good. And I loved everything about that. Dynamite could have been 2 hours of that and I would have been fine. I laughed more. And then when I was done, I laughed again. I loved all of that. And who would have thought that Jeff Jarrett would be so entertaining in AEW? When he first showed up there, I felt like Tony Khan signed him just to sign him. That was it. Brings a legend in. Sure, it's somebody you can have backstage. They already have a lot of those people, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to have your Stings and your Jakes and your Jarretts and your Tazes and your Jerichos and other longtime legends back there to be, to have various roles in the company that can be good, especially for a lot of your younger talent. But I didn't really see the point of bringing Jeff Jarrett in. Jeff Jarrett was really never my favorite guy to begin with. He did show back up in WWE to get a backstage position there for a short amount of time until Triple H was, Vince left and then Triple H was put in charge and then Jarrett was out, Road Dogg was in, and they kind of threw him, just cast him aside. He was on Broken Skull Sessions last year as well with Steve Austin. But then when he came in AEW, I just didn't know if we really needed him there. But being able to tie in his TNA music is really cool. And then his matches were good. He's a great heel. He is there and he's doing exactly what he's there to do, to be a good, entertaining veteran that does his job. And Jarrett and Sting, both of them, far exceeded anything I thought those guys were capable of or even needed to do in AEW. And it's just kind of like a happy accident. It's a nice surprise. Jarrett was just kind of like, oh, well, he's there. Little did I know he was going to entertain me. I thought Jarrett was going to do nothing more than just be there. That's it. Little did I know he was going to contribute. And he is involved in this whole nonsense here with Briscoe. And it's so much fun. I loved all of that. Way to go, Jeff Jarrett. I'm glad things are working out in AEW for you. And finally, before we get into Backlash predictions, the main event last night of AEW Dynamite was the very predictable tag team match between Jungle Boy and Darby, taking on Sammy and MJF. The stipulation here is if the babyfaces win, they get added to the Sammy and MJF match at Double or Nothing. This was never in doubt from the very first week. Last month, when all 4 pillars were in the ring, we all said, collective, we said, ooh, that's what they're going to do at Double or Nothing. It's going to be a 4 pillars, 4 corners, fatal 4-way, whatever the fuck match, right? That's going to be fun. But there was so much time between then and Double or Nothing, you have to kill time. And that's all they were doing. I've said that right from the start. The minute they tried to act like it was just going to be one of these guys facing MJF, I said, okay, what they're going to do is a whole bunch of fucking nonsense that eventually ends with Tony Khan making the ruling that it's going to be all 4 guys in the match. That's kind of what they did. First, they tried to do the Pillars tournament thing, and then MJF's trying to buy off Sammy Guevara, and you can't even really tell if Sammy is on board with MJF and what he is pitching, or if he's manipulating him, just acting like he's going to take the money only to turn on him at Double or Nothing. a lot of the MJF and Sammy stuff has been really funny on TV with the smooching and the kissing and the hugging and all of that. It's been cracking me up. But the only major critique I have with this whole situation is that it is kind of predictable, but it's also understandable why they're doing it. So maybe they could have taken a different road that would have been a little bit more entertaining. But like I said, from the minute that they made this Pillars tournament where they were going to determine MJF's opponent, you knew that it was just going to lead to them doing what they're doing here. So last week, after MJF tries to pull so many strings, to give himself an advantage at Double or Nothing, Tony Khan predictably says, that's not going to happen. And instead of just telling him your punishment for being a little cheating prick is you got to face all three of these guys, instead of saying that, he made the tag match for last night. And of course, Darby and Jungle got the win, and now it is official. It will be a four-way match for the title. Now, you still have 2 or 3 more Dynamites until we get to Double or Nothing, so there is still more you have to do in the build to this, but I think in terms of killing time, this was a good way to do it. They could have done it a lot of different ways. They didn't have to do it specifically this way, but they could have done a series of matches or a series of segments that would eventually lead to the four-way. But what I didn't want to see is every single week all 4 of these guys being in the ring on the mic, because that very first week they established a lot, and there really isn't much to establish after that. A couple of weeks ago, same thing happened. They had like Jungle Boy and Sammy like open up the show on the mic, and nothing that they were saying was really that interesting to me because they covered everything on the very first week. You did this and we did this. We're all homegrown pillars, but you had an easier road than me, and I had to sleep in my car and you didn't. You don't work Rampage, I work Dark. All that shit. We've been over that, and there's only so much you can do with that with guys who are limited on the mic to begin with. Sammy's okay on the mic. Darby's okay on the mic. Jungle Boy needs a lot of work. And of course, MJF virtually has no equal. But when it comes to being on the mic, but I don't know how much you can really accomplish building more heat and more animosity just with in-ring promos every week. So now we have a few Dynamites until we get to the match. Now that the match is official, they can do whatever they want now in those 3 weeks. But giving the Pillars match the main event of Double or Nothing, I think, is a good way to go. I've been excited for this ever since they made it clear to us that that's what they were going to do. And I thought last night's Dynamite was a pretty good episode of Dynamite. The last 2 weeks were good. I think the one before that I didn't like so much. Last week's was a lot of fun. And last night's was a lot of fun as well. Like I said, I can't get over the Briscoe family chicken farm. I want to go there. I want to go hang out at the chicken farm. Looks like fun. Y'all want to go? Hang out on the porch? I used to live in the South, man. I love that, sitting on the porch, hanging out, nice cold beverage, strumming a guitar. I'm all about that. So if y'all want to meet up at the Briscoe family chicken farm, let's do it. Let's go. Let's cruise to the chat, see if I have any super chats to answer. I think there's one. I would really appreciate some thumbs up buttons for me, if you don't mind. Smash them likes for me, and then we will start getting into Backlash predictions in just 1 second. Spaz Phoenix, I want to thank him for joining us. Very generous $22 drop there from Spaz. What's up, Greg and chat? Plugs ahoy. My review and quick thoughts on both nights of the draft are up now, and a trailer reaction for the new Hunger Games Backlash preview tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. All right, go check out Spaz Phoenix's YouTube channel. You can find him right there in your search bar and see what he's got going on. Backlash preview for him is tomorrow morning. I'm curious if tomorrow night on SmackDown they could tack on one more match. It's possible. I think we have 7 right now announced for the show, but they might add something on there. I don't really know. Let's just run through what it looks like Double or Nothing might look like, and help me out if I'm missing matches. So we're going to get the 4 Pillars match in the main event. We know that. Feels like we might do Wardlow and Christian unless they get that done on TV. We could see Acclaimed versus House of Black for the trios. Probably FTR and Jarrett and Lethal, because the whole point of Jarrett and Lethal and company showing up at the chicken farm was because Mark knows how to beat FTR. Him and his brother, of course, were able to beat them. And Jarrett and Lethal want to talk strategy with Briscoe. So if we do get Jarrett and Lethal against FTR for the titles, that probably will also be at Double or Nothing. But that's not really too exciting of a tag team match for me. If we get Jarrett and Lethal against FTR, makes me feel like Jarrett and Lethal might actually win. But we might get that unless they do that on TV. Again, they could. We'll probably get Outcasts against Baker, Hayter, Sheeta, something like that, right? Probably we'll get a Jade Cargill match as well, although that's not a guarantee. And that's all I really kind of have penciled in right now for Double or Nothing. I don't know what I'm missing. Oh yeah, probably Ricky Starks and Jay White as well will happen. That'll be really good. So there's a few good ones on here already, but nothing really super confirmed. Ram, good to see you. Appreciate that $3, my friend. Hey, Greg, what's your most anticipated match for BL? Stands for Backlash, in case you didn't know. I got to say probably Cody and Brock, just because that's a fresh one. We haven't seen Cody and Brock. Brock might have gotten his hands on Cody years ago and caught him with an F5 somewhere in some big, massive brawl where he's trying to tear the Undertaker's head off or something like that. I don't know. But in terms of the Cody that we know and the Brock that we know now, this is a new match. It's a fresh match. I think it will be good. And it's more, just more build for Cody. He's been in there with some major opponents ever since he came back, and this one will be no different. And the finish of this match has got me very, very curious. And that's basically what we're going to talk about now. Predicting WWE Backlash for this Saturday. Reading somebody's comments real quick. Yeah, the way he said boy so instantly. Boy! I love that. So funny. Oh, yeah, Ratnick's bringing up Becky Lynch's bloody nose. Yeah, exactly. But my point about that was with Brit's shirt, she's not in a crowd. The Becky nose, bloody nose looks awesome because it's the context of it's that image of her in the entranceway up there in the top with her arms spread, fans all around her, That's badass. Brit's looks dark. Becky's got this like mean look on her face. She's got blood smeared. It looks badass. Brit's doesn't look badass. Brit's looks like she's a victim. And that's where I understood why that shirt looks sketchy. I just don't go as far as saying, oh, it promotes domestic violence, because I think that's a stretch. But yeah, good point about the Becky shirt too. It's all about the context and how it looks. And that's why if they just would have added something wrestling related to that shirt, add her name, or like I said, if that photo was taken not in a dark living room and backstage or in the wrestling ring, then no problem. We wouldn't be talking about it at all. It was just kind of how it looked, gave it that sketchy vibe. Big MGM, appreciate the $5 from you, man. Thank you so much. Is it just me, or is the whole Outcast story kind of hard to buy, like Sheeta trusting Baker and Hayter after tormenting the entire roster feels off? Yeah, I haven't really loved the Outcast thing at all. I think one of the biggest things I don't like about the Outcast story is the use of the spray paint. It's so fucking dumb because you can't see it. It's not like the NWO days where spray paint NWO on everything. Like whenever they're spray painting, whatever they're spray painting, I don't know what it is. I don't know what they're spelling. I don't know what symbol or letter they're drawing. Last night was the same thing, even though it was the baby faces doing it. I think it was Sheeta who was spraying something, but I don't know what the fuck she was spraying. I think she was trying to spray AEW, but you can't see this on camera. The spray paint does not show up. It's hard to see. Fluorescent green doesn't show up as well as dark black. And the whole spray paint thing is dumb. I'm happy that they're trying something. Saraya and Tony, they're a good team, and Ruby, they're a good trio. I like them together, but so far them, what they're trying to accomplish with the tormenting and the beat downs and the backstage attacks and stuff like that, none of that has looked really good. And the three women have not come off as a trio that should be feared and is very dangerous. They just come off like three women with green spray paint, and it's just not clicking for me. So I kind of agree with you, but I like everybody that's involved in the storyline. I think maybe it's just the story that's not great. I like Tony Storm a lot. I'm happy to see Saraya back. I've always been a fan of Ruby. I love Britt Baker, love Hayter. I love every single woman that's involved in this, but for some reason, all of it coming together isn't really doing it for me either. So I kind of agree with you on that one. BGM. Oh yeah, Chris Jericho versus Adam Cole. That's right. That will be on here as well. And we're probably going to get some sort of a match with BCC and the Elite. We're getting Moxley and Kenny in a cage, so I don't think we'll get a one-on-one match run back with those guys. It could be another Anarchy in the Arena. They might do that with the Blackpool and the Elite, especially if they're able to bring in Hangman back with this, and maybe he joins up with them. But there's a lot going on here with Don Callis, who also had a promo last night referencing his big gash in his head. And of course, Takeshita is involved in this too. And we know they're setting up for some sort of swerve. It's just hard to figure out what exactly that's going to be yet. But it's definitely going to be Don Callis and Takeshita related. So if that happens prior to Double or Nothing or at Double or Nothing is the question. But I would think we're going to get some sort of Elite and Blackpool match in Vegas as it is. So, yeah, it's looking like a pretty good card so far. Yeah, Big MG. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I said. I just literally said the same thing about the Britt Baker shirt. All you had to do was add a little bit. Add a slogan, a name, an AEW logo, or make it a little bit less gnarly looking, and everything would have been fine. But I still think a situation like that at the end of the day is going to blow over because the T-shirt is still for sale and people were wearing it on TV last night. So I think everybody just needs to get over this one, But that brings us to Backlash. Like I said, we have 7 matches announced for this show tomorrow night on SmackDown. They could announce perhaps one more because I do think we have a match between Karrion Kross and Shinsuke Nakamura on Friday. So if something goes down there, double DQ or something tomorrow night, they might book a rematch for Saturday. Don't really know. But here are the 7 matches that we have. Where should we start? In no particular order. I didn't even write down who I'm predicting to win these matches. I'm just going to kind of go with it because I feel like I know what they're going to do for the most part. Let's start with the United States Championship match, triple threat, Austin Theory defending against Bobby Lashley and Bronson Reed. So Bobby and Austin are on SmackDown. They got drafted to SmackDown. That's where the United States Championship is going to be, and that's where I expect it to stay. So Bobby or Theory will be the one coming out of this match as the champion. I feel like the reason this is a 3-way is so you can keep the title on Austin without him having to beat Bobby Lashley clean, which means Bronson Reed might be the one taking the pin here, which I don't necessarily want to see, but it almost feels like it would be better than him than Lashley taking the pin. So I feel like Austin Theory is going to retain his championship here. The only thing that makes me wonder if we could see a title change is that I'm not really seeing any other chances or possibilities for a title change other than this one. So if you think about what I'm going to talk about later with Cody and Brock, giving Lashley a strong win here heading into what might be another match with Brock Lesnar might be what you want to do. It puts the United States title on Bobby Lashley, but then again, he's been United States champion before. Last month, Austin Theory beat the greatest of all time in a U.S. title defense at WrestleMania. I don't know if he's going to immediately turn around and cough that belt up in an undercard triple threat. You know what I mean? So I'm going to predict Austin Theory to retain the title here. I feel like he will pin Bronson Reed after the Hurt Lock or something like that. He'll find some shady way to steal a victory here and probably retain the title. Raw Women's title on the line as SmackDown star Bianca Belair defends her Raw Women's title. You love that, don't you? Against Io Sky. You guys might be able to help me out with this. Why am I seeing so many predictions for Io Sky? Am I missing something major here? Because I have seen Io Sky is winning all over the internet. Why? Why am I seeing this? It has nothing to do with the draft. I saw maybe some people were confused at first and, Io Sky's on Raw, so she's going to win because the belt needs to be over there. So none of that makes any sense. They're both on SmackDown. There's no draft reason for Io Sky to beat Bianca Belair here. I love Io Sky, but this title shot came out of nowhere. I think Io Sky and Bianca Belair are going to have a great pay-per-view match together. I'm glad this match is on pay-per-view and not Raw to where they can have some fun out there and do some things. But after the year that Bianca Belair has had, successfully defending the title so many times, dropping it here to Io Sky makes no sense to me. Makes no sense to me at all. I think Io Sky is great. If they wanted to put the WWE Women's Championship on her, I wouldn't object. But here is a little bit odd. And on top of that, you have to remember that these championships are all fucked up right now. You've got the Raw title on SmackDown, the SmackDown title on Raw. What we are all hoping as fans, and there's been some rumors to support this, but we really don't know. What we're hoping as fans is we do not, and I mean not, get that stupid, ridiculous, frustrating belt swap shit with Rhea and Bianca. It would be a cool segment between the two to have them both in the ring to kind of plant the seed for a future mega match between the two, maybe at WrestleMania 40. But the belt swap thing, I think, is lazy. It's disrespectful to your title lineage. And now you're going to change the name of Bianca's title, or essentially give her a different title after she's held it for a while. I think it would be better if Triple H unveiled new championship belts to present to Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, where they're the same titles, they're just being renamed. So instead of the SmackDown Women's Championship, Rhea Ripley is now the Women's World Heavyweight Champion, or the Women's World Champion. And then the Raw Women's Champion becomes the WWE Women's Champion. So that's what I'm hoping Triple H does, is that after Backlash, maybe next week on Raw, the first Raw and the first SmackDown of the new rosters, because Triple H said this Monday, May 8th, is when the rosters take effect. So tonight doesn't count yet. Or I'm sorry, tomorrow night doesn't count. You could still see some Raw people on SmackDown. But next week, it's all supposed to be settled. So on Raw, Triple H could present the new championship belt to Rhea Ripley, and then next Friday on SmackDown, do the same thing for Bianca Belair. And I don't see why Io Sky winning here would make any sense at all. Bianca and Ripley are your Randy Orton and John Cena of the women's division. They should be the two women to receive these two belts, not Becky and Charlotte, or not anybody from the previous generation. These two. I want to see these two women, because they're the strongest, most dominant women you have right now. I want to see them be the recipients of the new championships, because I think their careers are going to parallel each other a lot like Randy Orton's and John Cena's did, just like Bret and Shawn's did, or Rock and Austin, Hogan and Warrior. They are like that. And I think they should be the two women to get these new championships if these rumors are true, which I'm hoping they are, because if they are not true, that means they have no choice but to do a belt swap, and that's what we're going to get. And again, if you do the belt swap, think about how annoying that's going to be. If you do the belt swap, that means that on the very first night of your new rosters supposedly taking effect on May 8th, let's say you do the belt swap on Raw on Monday. That means the very first night that your rosters are supposed to be permanent, you have a SmackDown star appearing on Raw on night fucking one. Now, we already know that's going to happen. Even Natalya was tweeting shit out today. Maybe I'll just show up on both shows or something like that. Or I wasn't drafted, but that means I can't be on both shows. I don't know what she said, something stupid. So if they do that, it would just be extremely disheartening, and it would come off as excruciatingly lazy. And I just really like these ideas, these rumors that are floating around that Triple H does have some new championships in production. It would make sense, since we just saw the new World Heavyweight Championship being unveiled, that they would maybe clean up the women's situations by renaming the belts and removing the TV show names away from the belts, because I think that's so stupid. It's dumb in AEW too to have TNT and TBS titles. What happens when you go to the Discovery Channel or some other channel? And Raw and SmackDown belts are the same thing. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn also running around with a shitload of titles right now. I think everybody, Rhea, Bianca, Owens, and Sami, need to be presented new championships. And if you're still going to do two tag team championships in WWE, then you strip Owens and Zayn of one and you crown the new champions at Night of Champions, absolving them from the obligation of being there at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. You present Owens and Zayn the new World Tag Team Championship belts, because they're on Raw, and the WWE Tag Team Championships, now go to SmackDown. We're going to hold a tournament with the finals being at Night of Champions. That's what I would do. Crown new SmackDown Tag Team Champions or new WWE World Tag Team Champions at Night of Champions. So SmackDown will get new champions for the tag team division, and Raw will get a new World Heavyweight Champion crowned at Night of Champions. And that should, if you combine it with Rhea Ripley and Bianca receiving new belts, that should clean it all up. So that's my belt pitch there before giving you my actual prediction for Bianca Belair taking on Io Sky, and that is Bianca Belair beats her. I think this can be a fun match and everything, but I don't understand why Io Sky is being talked about so heavily winning this championship here. I'm not against it. I'm just surprised that that's a really common prediction that seems to be going around out there, and I don't know why that is. But I predict Bianca to win a good match, a hard-fought match, and continue her run as, at least for now, Raw Women's Champion. Imagine the Fox title or the USA title. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and MH Nova brings up a good point with the women's tag team titles. We don't know what's going on there either because the women's tag team champions were drafted to Raw, right? And I think they had the tag team title defense against what's their faces on Tuesday. I don't even know who won that, but both teams were drafted to the main roster anyway. So the NXT tags, the women's tags are going to have to come up, but you already have women's tag team titles on the show. So what the fuck? Now, Indy Hartwell has also been drafted. She relinquished her NXT title on Tuesday, right? So they're going to hold a tournament to crown a new champion. So she's now on the main roster without her championship. But you would think the tags will also have to be rectified prior to that because the last thing in the world WWE's women's tag team division needs is a second set of belts. You can't even book the first ones correctly. So now you're going to add a second set of tag team championships. So that means we're going to have a men's and women's tag on each show. We really can't have that. It's too much. So the women's tag team championships in NXT, I don't know what's going on there, but they do not need to be on the main roster, at least for very long. If they have to debut on the main roster or something like that, then that's fine. Unless they want to make it to where the women's tag team champions in WWE can appear on everything. And maybe with the women's tag team champions coming up to Raw or SmackDown, wherever the fuck they are, you guys please help me. Maybe you do a unification. And there's a unification match between Liv and Raquel and the NXT tag team champions. These championships become one. And then once they do, it goes back to, didn't they do that originally? Help me out. Were the women's tag team champions eligible to wrestle on all three shows? Why does that seem familiar? I think they might have done that at first, right? Bring it back. Bring it back. Because the women's tag team division sucks so unimaginably. And it sucks so bad. I think really the only way to make it even remotely interesting is let the champs float between all three shows, fresh matchups, all that stuff. Plus, it might put some veterans or former NXT people in NXT. We've seen that recently with New Day, and we've seen it in the past. And if you can get, a Liv or Raquel somewhere, somebody going back to NXT, working with some of the newer crop, that could be a lot of fun. So maybe that's what they're planning. But I'm still you guys know it's a pet peeve of mine. I'm still extremely uncomfortable with this whole championship belt situation. They have a lot of shit to consolidate and clean up. And I would hope by Night of Champions, the show that's named after championships, that they should have the shit figured out by the time we get to there. So WWE, I'm going to give you some slack. But if Night of Champions comes and goes and we still have 45 fucking championship belts floating around, I'm going to be pissed. So Triple H, figure it out. Bianca Belair successfully defends over Io Sky. That's my prediction there. SmackDown Women's Champion. Raw star, Rhea Ripley. Isn't that annoying to say? So Raw star and SmackDown Women's Champion Rhea Ripley is defending her championship against Zelina Vega. Now, this is a great match for Zelina because I think I don't know if she was born in Puerto Rico, but I know she's of Puerto Rican descent. And this is a great match for her to have. But this is going to be a women's star athlete versus a fourth grader. Rhea Ripley's going to kill this woman. Zelina picked up a little tune-up win last week, and Rhea came out and smashed her. This one is probably going to be less competitive than Bianca Belair and Io Sky, but I personally don't believe Bianca and Rhea are in any danger at all of even coming close to losing their championships on Saturday. Rhea Ripley will destroy Zelina Vega, and it should be fun to watch. We have six-man action. We've got Matt Riddle teaming up with our undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, Owens and Zayn, to take on the Bloodline, which is going to be the Usos and Solo Sikoa. There's all sorts of bad blood, no pun intended, in the Bloodline right now. Usos are on extremely thin ice with the Tribal Chief. He has not even spoken to them since WrestleMania, apparently. And Paul Heyman and Solo have been very, very shady, in some of the things they've been saying to these guys, some of the looks that Solo is making towards the Usos. And you can tell that Paul Heyman and Solo are still very tight with the Tribal Chief, and they are just awaiting word from him to take out the Usos, and that word could come at any time. If the Bloodline is unsuccessful here, that's going to be a big, big, big problem. So I don't know who you really pick here. It could go either way. You can beat the baby faces here to spare the bloodline and spare the Usos, give them a stay of execution, if you will, if they're able to actually pick up a win here. Tribal Chief lightens up a little bit and gives them, at least another temporary chance, or this could be another loss that leads to the downfall of the Usos. I just don't know when they're planning to do this eventual murdering, I feel like, that's going to take place of the Usos by Solo Sikoa. It might be right here at the end of this match, but it also might be a good way to give them a win to build up the bloodline a little bit more. Riddle and Owens and Zayn. Owens has already acted as if he's a little annoyed with Riddle as it is. So maybe the three of them aren't as cohesive as, the bloodline are. And that causes a loss. And it could be, Solo doing all the work. I would like to see Solo maybe nail Riddle with the spike and pin him, getting the win for the bloodline, to where, yes, the bloodline won, but it was Solo who had to do the work, Solo who had to get it done, and that might not help the Usos situation either. So I think at the end of the day, I'm going to predict the bloodline. I'm going to predict the bloodline to win here. I don't know why. I think they're due a win, and since it's a non-title match and whatever, I think that I would have the bloodline go over here, although I'm really enjoying the dynamic of Sami Zayn really truly wanting to rescue Jay from the bloodline. And if they were able to beat him here again, Sami could say, CJ, you're on, like, they're going to kill you any minute now. Can't you see that? Trying to get him out of the mob and save him at the last minute. I still feel like that could play a factor here somehow, but I'm going to predict the bloodline just to get the win, just for fun to see what happens. We have Seth freaking Rollins taking on Omas. I don't know what to make of this match. On Monday in our Raw stream, I pitched this whole idea for Omas to beat Seth Rollins, and of course, fans can't get past that very from what he beat Seth Rollins. Just chill. Had this whole scenario laid out for Omas to beat Seth Rollins, because I felt like if Seth Rollins was going to be the first guy to win the World Heavyweight Championship, then a loss here to Omas isn't going to do anything. We'll forget all about that in 3 weeks when this guy's winning the championship and swinging it over his head in Saudi Arabia, And somebody brought up that maybe Omas could get a future title shot against Roman Reigns since he's a free agent. So if he were to beat Seth Rollins here at Backlash, Omas could then maybe get himself a championship match against Roman Reigns, which, again, everybody's like, why would you want to see that? Because it's not about this match. Roman Reigns probably is going to get a Saudi match and a Saudi payday, but I don't think his title defense needs to be one where the fans really truly feel like it's going to come to an end, because I think the World Heavyweight Championship should be the focal point and be center stage here for Night of Champions. It's a new belt. Of course, you have to make this the main event in my mind. So I was kind of thinking that Roman would have a different title defense against somebody else, a predictable title defense that he would win. That title defense could be against Omas. He would obviously beat Omas, but then because Omas is a free agent, Omas sees Seth win the championship, knows that he just beat Seth at the last pay-per-view, and then goes back to Raw and says, I want a shot at your title. I should get one because I've beaten you before. And then Seth grants it, and then Seth beats him and gets his win back. It's a very beautiful, uniform scenario, and it works. The equations work, right? But I don't know if any of that's really that likely, because on Raw, we did see a tease of Seth Rollins against Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman was in the ring. He talked about the World Heavyweight Championship and even kind of shit on it for not being legit, since the Tribal Chief has all of the belts. And Seth Rollins came out and talked about Roman a little bit, and they did tease that this match could happen. Do you think Paul Heyman could contractually find a way for Roman to get involved in this tournament? I don't think so. Triple H said that once Roman is drafted to a show, he will stay there, and Raw will have its own exclusive title. But they are at least planting the seeds of Seth and Roman, which makes me wonder, even if Seth does win the World Heavyweight title, do they have some unification shit planned with him and Roman Reigns? I don't know. I don't want to see that. I just want to see Raw have one championship belt and SmackDown have another. And as we've been talking about Triple H potentially presenting new belts to Rhea, new belts to Bianca, new belts to Owens and Zayn, Roman also needs to be one of those people, because Paul Heyman himself on Monday referenced the 3 championships. And I think that's where people are getting this idea that the World Heavyweight Championship is a consolation belt because WWE is still treating it like that. So I think Roman, just like the women and just like Owens and Zayn, needs to be presented with a new championship. But this adds a lot of new championships to your company. Basically, all of your title belts are going to be new. World Heavyweight Championship is brand new. Roman's got a new belt. Bianca's got a new belt. Rhea's got a new belt. And Owens and Zayn have new belts. Everybody has new belts. Are they really prepared to do that? Is that really what they have planned? Has Triple H made new championships for everybody? I think that would be great. Breath of fresh air, little facelift, change of pace, ushering in this new era. That's great, but none of these rumors have been substantiated at all. So I really don't want, after Night of Champions, that is, like I said, WWE can have all the slack in the world. I don't want to see that World Heavyweight Championship exist with Roman's two belts. It's got to be one belt for one show and one belt for another show, period. And if they don't do that, it's going to look fucked up. So I want the World Heavyweight title to take center stage at Night of Champions. And if Seth Rollins is going to be the guy to do that, then I think either way here does not matter. You could say Rollins beats Omas. That kind of gives him an automatic bid, so to speak, into the World Heavyweight Championship tournament. We don't even know how that's going to happen yet, how that's going to be structured on TV. If it's going to be the tournament on TV and the finals at Night of Champions, or the entire tournament at Night of Champions, whatever. But we're probably going to have qualifying matches, or there might be some automatic bids to get into the tournament. Another thing you got to remember is that they did go out of their way last week on SmackDown to say that Raw and SmackDown people were both going to be involved in the tournament, which makes no sense because Triple H just said Monday, May 8th, the roster split is when it takes effect. So why would SmackDown people be in this tournament? They're already going against their own rules, which pisses me off. So I'm hoping the announcers either misspoke last week, because if they did, then the belt can be exclusive to Raw. But if they didn't misspeak and the plan is to have Raw and SmackDown stars in the tournament, then the finals could be anything, But if it's not going to be that, I would really love to see Seth Rollins be in the finals with Cody Rhodes. And if Seth is going to make it to the finals, like I said, I feel like a win or a loss over Omas could go either way. Now, Seth, who's he been feuding with lately? I'm trying to think who could come out in this match and cost Seth Rollins the victory, because even though I could see a scenario where Seth Rollins loses, I don't really think he's going to lose clean or anything like that. It might be due to some other distractions or maybe bloodline stuff. I don't know. But I feel like they wouldn't make this match just for no reason, just for Seth to beat Omas. If the plan is for Seth to be the first World Heavyweight Champion, he doesn't need this match against Omas. He doesn't need this before he wins the title. He needs it after. If they were going to book Seth and Omas, I would book Seth and Omas when Seth is champion. That's when I would book it. Booking it here is weird, and you have to wonder why. And Omas, by the way, is a super likable guy. If you heard him on interviews and stuff, he's great. I don't know why everybody's so hard on Omas. No giants are very good in the ring. Andre, Great Khali, all these giant fuckers can barely move in there. Omas is no worse than any of them, in terms of his mobility and shit like that. He's just a big giant who traditionally aren't great wrestlers to begin with. So that's nothing new. And why would you book Rollins in just a throwaway match to beat Omas here for no reason? Why would you do that? I feel like there's more of a reason to book a Seth loss, because now you can run this back. And I feel like a Omas loss does nothing for Omas, where a Seth loss does a lot for Omas, but doesn't do anything to hurt Seth Rollins. And you know how Twitter is. If Seth loses, they'll say he's buried, but that's not what it means at all. Not even close. Not even the same fucking universe as buried. Fans just throw these words around and these opinions without even thinking about them. So Seth losing would not be a burial at all if you booked a finish where MVP gets involved or anybody else gets involved, or a current person that Seth is beefing with gets involved, costs Seth the match, whatever. Who cares if he's going on to win the championship in 3 weeks? So because of that, I'm predicting Omas to beat Seth Rollins. I don't know why. I don't know how. It just feels like this match would be meaningless just to throw it on the card for a one-off where Seth just flat out beats Omas, and then he goes on to this World Heavyweight Championship tournament to win the belt. Why book this match then? Why was this match even on the card if that's the plan? Big picture here. So I'm looking for, I just feel like it's unlikely that Seth and Omas is booked for a one-off and that's it. One-off match in Puerto Rico, boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, you're done. there's got to be more to it than that. There's got to be a run back. There's got to be a rematch. So that's why I feel like Omas is in the better position to take a win here. He's already lost to Lashley. He's already lost to Brock Lesnar. If you just burn all of his losses right now, then he's just burnt out and you got nothing for him to do. And that's when you bring in Rajan Singh and you start having him dance around the ring and shit and become a comedy act. I'm not ready to get there yet with Omas. He's got more mileage than that, and WWE should try to get some use out of him while he's his youngest and his most physically capable, and the novelty of him being so big hasn't totally worn off yet. Then he loses and becomes a comedy act, but I don't think they're ready to do that with him yet, and I think he's going to beat Seth Rollins. I do. I could be wrong, but I feel like he's going to beat the Sethster. And that brings us to what could be the main event or what might not be the main event, and that is Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Cody and Brock, here we go. We've seen these guys try to tear each other up on TV. Over the past couple of weeks, Cody Rhodes knocked Brock Lesnar down with one punch on Monday night. I feel like Cody, if you just think about this quickly, it's like, okay, Cody should win here. Cody will probably win. He will... And that would that would be good for the World Heavyweight title tournament. Like, I really hope it's Cody and Seth in the finals and Seth beats Cody. It gives Seth his win back from last year and all of that. It works out perfect. And it would be even better if Rollins is coming off a loss and Cody's coming off a win. You know what I mean? Cody's going into that tournament with all of the momentum, just beating Brock Lesnar. And then he loses to Seth Rollins, who makes up for his loss against Omas and takes down Cody Rhodes, making up for all the jobs he did for him the previous year. I really like all of that. So I feel like Cody Rhodes should win here. But let's say Cody Rhodes wins. What does Brock Lesnar do at Night of Champions? So part of me wonders if, they do some sort of a DQ, because this match is just a standard match from what we understand. If they just do a DQ, you could run it back at Night of Champions with a stipulation, putting Seth Rollins in the World Heavyweight Tournament final against somebody completely different. Or do you do something else with Lesnar? Maybe Lesnar is in the finals of the World Heavyweight title tournament, So I feel like in order to keep Brock out of the tournament on Raw, something has got to happen here. So I feel like Cody Rhodes is going to win, and shout out to Backup Hangman on Twitter, who replied to my tweet saying, Cody and Seth being the World Heavyweight title final is the way to go, and I agree. But my question was, what the hell does Brock do? Because Brock's got to do something. And is there really time just to create a whole new opponent for him, just to give him a match and something to do at Night of Champions? And plus, are you going to have a whole lot of non-title matches on this pay-per-view at all to begin with? So what does Brock really do? Maybe he blows off his still unresolved issue with Bobby Lashley that should have been blown off at WrestleMania. So maybe the consolation prize for Lashley not getting that match with Brock like he should have at WrestleMania, maybe you get it in Saudi Arabia instead. Another major show with a major payday. Maybe that will make it okay for Lashley, the fact that he's going to get a big damn paycheck. And maybe that's where you do the fight pit, the Hell in the Cell, or something like that or just straight up cage match between Brock and Lashley, allowing Cody and Seth to be in the tournament and to face each other in the finals. So I'm predicting Cody Rhodes to win, but if Cody wins, I think he's going to need some outside assistance from whoever Brock is going to work with next, because I also don't think Brock and Cody's issue is completely done. So maybe when we revisit Cody and Brock, that match is now a championship match, maybe in a few months if Cody wins the title from Roman, whether that be at Madison Square Garden like I'm pitching or at SummerSlam. Either way, sounds like it's going to take a Money in the Bank contract to get that done. And with Brock Lesnar being a free agent, hell, he could even win Money in the Bank, because I don't think he's allowed to face Roman Reigns again for the title. But if he wins Money in the Bank, maybe he can. And then we get Brock and Roman Part 9 or whatever the fuck. But I feel like Cody has got to win here against Brock Lesnar for the future of Cody and what WWE's plans, I hope for him, are this summer. I feel like Cody's got to take the win here, but it can be with a whole lot of help. It's a standard match. We could get a DQ. We could get a schmaz, which is why if we see this on the undercard, if this is not the main event, keep a lookout for some sort of finish like that. If Bad Bunny and Damian Priest goes on last, I feel like Cody and Brock could have a goofy finish, or maybe even a non-finish. I mean, this whole feud so far has been about pull-aparts. maybe there's another one, and these guys the referee just calls for the bell and just a big mob and trying to tear these guys away from each other. And then that might be when you have to run it back between the two of them at Night of Champions. So I just don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Cody Rhodes to defeat Brock Lesnar, which brings us to what might be our main event, San Juan Street Fight. Damian Priest taking on megastar Bad Bunny. Worldwide platinum recording artist, whatever he is. Dude is a massive, massive star. And he's going to be facing Damian Priest, a guy 3 times bigger than him, in a San Juan Street Fight. If this is the main event, 1,000% Bad Bunny gets the win here. There is no LWO match, I don't think, planned for Backlash. I don't think they've scheduled one. They might throw one at us on Friday night. No, probably not, because, well, they might. Maybe tomorrow night they could add this to the show, and that's possible. But if not, I feel like Ray and Dominic and the LWO are going to have, and the rest of the Judgment Day are going to have a lot to do with this match. It's a San Juan Street Fight, which means there's no rules, which really this probably means it's going to be more of a faction versus faction match than just a one-on-one. And they're going to be able to protect Bad Bunny to where he can still perform well, but he doesn't have to do it all on his own. And I think he's going to beat Damian Priest. So I think Bad Bunny, with the help from Ray and Dominic and all that stuff, is going to help Bad Bunny, or is going to get help from those guys to defeat Damian Priest, and he'll beat him in the San Juan Street Fight. But if this match is not the main event, maybe it could go a different way. It's possible. But I think Bad Bunny should get the win here in Puerto Rico. He's going to be pretty over in that building, I would think. So, and so would Damian Priest, but I think Bad Bunny even more so. And I think fans are going to really want to see him get the win here. So that's what I predict will happen. So just to recap, I predicted Austin Theory, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley will all retain their titles at Backlash. I think the Bloodline will defeat Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Riddle in the 6-man. I believe Omas will defeat Seth Rollins. I believe Cody Rhodes, or I predict Cody Rhodes will defeat Brock Lesnar, and I predict Bad Bunny will defeat Damian Priest in the main event, or what likely might be the main event of Backlash. Otherwise, it's definitely going to be Cody and Brock going on last. So there you go. Let me knock out a couple of these super chats, and then I got to get out of here because I still have to go to work tonight. Make sure I don't miss anybody. Big MGM, I got you. Zane G, good to see you, my friend. Appreciate the $5. Reigns scheduled for Money in the Bank, so maybe a possible cash-in. Yes, maybe a possible cash-in. I don't know who Reigns will face yet. I think Sami Zayn would be a really good opponent for him. But again, I don't see Cody cashing in on Reigns on Money in the Bank. Like, if Cody wins the briefcase, I don't see him doing a one-night cash-in. Cody's character is the type of guy that would call his shot for MSG or SummerSlam. But if it's somebody else, like a Brock, then you could have him cashing in on the same night. And we could see that, Zane G. The London crowd would be treated to something pretty special if they did, but I don't know if I necessarily want to see it. Chiming in with a couple more from Zane. Oh, you did it 3 times, all for the same question. Well, thanks, man. You get the same answer for all 3. I do think it's possible for a one-night cash-in, but I'm kind of hoping it doesn't happen. But we got a big summer, man. SummerSlam's a big, big show in Detroit. MH Nova, appreciate 5 from you as well. Most memorable consolation title wins. Mid-card belt won because they didn't win the world title. Omega, mid-card belt won because they didn't win the U.S. title. E.g., Omega winning New Japan U.S. title, Nakamura with U.S., Cody winning TNT. Oh, yeah, most memorable consolation title wins. Probably Cody, I guess. I don't know if any of those are really more memorable than the others, but Cody does stick out to me, winning the TNT title and being the first guy to hold that belt and all that nonsense in AEW. So, yeah, there you go. 7th SZN believes that the Bunny match is a setup for Bunny versus Dominic. Maybe it's SummerSlam. Maybe. Dominic's got just nuclear heat right now, man. I'm putting a belt on Dominic. If I want to maximize my heat, I'm finding a championship to put on that kid. Pretty insane how over he is right now, or how much heat he has. But Bunny and Dominic, I'm lukewarm on that one. I don't know. I don't know if Dominic, if we want Dominic in there with a celebrity. Just depends on how, Dominic's trajectory takes him, what the reactions he continues to get this summer. Eventually, there's still going to be a blow off with his dad. Maybe it is at SummerSlam, maybe one final blow off between those two. And I think there will eventually come a time once Dominic's heat cools off and WWE feels like it's the right time for Judgment Day to boot him out, him become a broken man and have to crawl back to his dad. I feel like something like that is likely for Dominic. Big MGM, appreciate $2 from you. Hoping for a late Dom vs. Ray 2 edition. We could get that very, very late, but I also think we could get that at Night of Champions, and we could still get a lot between those two guys in upcoming pay-per-views. I think they're just kind of dragging it out, so we will have to see. But that's got to be it for me tonight, guys. I got to get out of here and head to work. Thank you so much for being here with me this afternoon. Before you leave, if you guys could hook me up with the likes, I could really, really use the likes. We are desperate for the likes. Hook me up. I would appreciate it. And I will catch you guys on Saturday after Backlash. We'll be up here for a full review. And keep a lookout on the channel between now and tomorrow. I will have your links to Saturday, Sunday, and Monday all up on the channel for you. We got a big weekend of streaming with a day off tomorrow. So keep that in mind for the rest of the week. And I will talk to you guys very soon. Y'all